Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, we've got a very special guest. She is an AAC champion in the 1650 after winning the event in her first ever 1650, and she is now a member of the Tennessee Vols. Today, we are talking to Kristen Stege.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm meeting you for the first time, but I've seen your names in headlines since March, I guess. It's almost a year now, and it's been, I'm guessing it's been a whirlwind year for you. So I'm excited to kind of break that down and get your perspective on it. I want to start with a dual meet you had just a couple weeks ago against Georgia, and I think it was one of your first dual meets for Tennessee. You won the 1,000 in 9:40.8. Tell me about that. So that is blazing.
Basically, I just kind of relaxed through it and just saw what I could do. I didn't really have any expectations. I kind of just wanted to get my hand on the wall first, get some points for Tennessee, and it was just fun and relaxing.
What was that intimidating at all, going up against, among others, Courtney Harnish, who is an NCAA All-American, SEC All-American. And UGA in general, they're definitely a top-tier team. Was that intimidating at all? You seemed pretty relaxed about it.
A little bit, but I kind of just like to stay in my own head and just not really think about who I'm versing other than myself. Just try to get my own best times and do good for myself and not really focus on anyone else.
I feel like that is a perspective that a lot of swimmers strive for, but it's a lot easier said than done. Is that something you've always been able to channel pretty easily, or is that something you've worked on for a while now?
I don't say that I've always had that mindset. I used to get really scared at meets and stuff, but ever since I kind of got more experience in college and at bigger meets, I kind of learned how to just stay in my own head before my race and kind of channel out everything else.
Yeah. Was there anyone who helped you specifically channel that, or was that something that was a more internal process for you?
My whole team definitely helps me a lot, and my coaches. Sometimes I will go up to them and be like, "Oh, I'm so nervous," or I'm pretty new at distance. It's been only a couple months, so I'll ask them for advice. Or we have a mental trainer that will help us relax. His name is Dr. Joe. Before our meets, we'll just kind of take some deep breaths as a team together, and that really helps a lot.
So it sounds like a group effort, and as you mentioned,
for sure,
you are newer to distance training. So let's back it up a little bit. You came to East Carolina University in the season 2019-2020 season as a freshman. Were you recruited as a sprinter? Is that correct?
Yeah, I committed for the 50 and 100 freestyle.
So what happened after that? How did you end up, throughout the course of that season, swimming the mile at the AAC championships?
So all my life I thought I was a 50 freestyler, and I was kind of stubborn about it. Oh, why would I be in the 500? I'm a sprinter, and I just tried to stick to the 50. But Actually in high school, right before I went to East Carolina, like a couple months before, I did my first suited 500. It was a 4:58. But my coaches were like, "Oh, like that has potential." So then I went to East Carolina a couple months later, and I said, for the first dual meet against ODU, I think, I just asked to be in the 500, and I think I got second with a 501, um, which wasn't that bad. So they put me in the like mid distance group instead of like the sprint group, and throughout that season, I just kept being put in the 500 and the 200, never the mile though, or the 1,000. And I just ended up dropping like 15 seconds at midseason that year. And then that's when I realized, like, oh, I think I am a distance swimmer. Like, I think I was always meant to be one, but maybe I was kind of scared at that idea, like when I was younger. Um, so so then I was supposed to be putting my first 1,000 at the last dual meet at East Carolina, but I got sick, so I couldn't go. So for conference, I was in the mile with like a blind mile. Like I really didn't know like how to swim it. I've never practiced it. I don't really know what to expect at all. So I just went into it like whatever happens happens, like just swim, I guess. And I was in like the prelims too. So it was like a random time in the middle of the afternoon, and I just like basically just closed my eyes and just did it. And I didn't know like that was a pretty good time when I finished. But like my coach came up to me and he's like, "Oh, do you know what you just did?" And I'm like, "No." I didn't really know anything about it.
It's pretty cool. And I'm gonna ask a few more questions about that mile in a minute, but I do want to back it up a little bit. You said when you were younger you were scared of distance training.
Yeah.
As many people are. Why wouldn't you want to swim the 50 free? It sounds way more fun. What about distance training were you so adamant to avoid when you were younger?
Honestly, it's just the longer stuff like was really intimidating to me, and the sets for the distance group was a lot more than the sets for the sprint group. And I just really thought like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm a sprinter. Like, are they trying like for distance? But I guess I should have like listened earlier. And I guess,
For,
oh, I was
Go
just
ahead.
sorry. I was just gonna say like the events you swim, you don't really get to choose. Like they kind of choose you.
And I mean, it seems like it's worked out for you in the long run so far. But when you were younger, did you start swimming pretty early? Were you playing other sports?
Yeah, I started swimming when I think I was 7 at my club team, but I was never serious until maybe sophomore year of high school when I was kind of doing a little bit better in the 50 and
Mhm.
like going to state for that, but I wasn't like placing very high. Um, but it was always kind of like a fun sport for me until it started getting more serious when I was a little bit older.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and something that's, I don't know, I wouldn't say distance training is necessarily fun.
Yeah.
So if you're not, you know, fully committed to something, or if you're not really serious about it, like you said, you weren't until a little bit later. I
Mhm.
I totally get wanting to be a sprinter. That sounds way more
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, it's definitely hard work, but I do like feel great after completing like a long distance practice. Like it just makes me feel good.
So yeah, I mean, tell me about that transition. at East Carolina in your freshman year when you started training mid D. Was
Mhm.
that something that you felt pretty natural doing, or did that take some getting used to?
I think it was pretty natural. We still didn't we did distance training like only a couple times a week there. So it wasn't like a big step from sprint. It's only like because like the other parts of the week we would do some sprint stuff too.
Mhm.
Um, so it was more gradual there. Um, so it wasn't too bad for me.
Nice. So a fairly natural progression, and then you swim this mile at AACs. Uh, Again, 16, 11, 9. Um, what was your reaction that night when you saw the A final go and you're like, oh, I won?
Oh, yeah, that was kind of fun. I was like on the sidelines, all done, and like changed and everything. And I was watching like their splits compared to what I went in the morning. And I was like really nervous. I think I was more nervous watching the A final than before my actual swim. But it was kind of fun to like be watching and like you've already swam, but like stressful at the same time.
That makes sense. I mean, you can't control what they're doing, right? It's
Yeah.
a lot. It's a lot more out there. But I mean, so you win the event. Did you realize that you had broken the conference record after your prelim swim?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know like what a decent time was for the mile.
What was the reaction from your team like? I mean, were they surprised? Were they like, we knew you were going to go really fast?
Some of them did say like they expected it because of how like hard I trained and like the drops I had in my 500 over the season, but overall they were like really surprised, especially like my coach. And they were just all saying like, "Do you know what you just did? Like that's amazing." But
Sounds like an overall good time.
yeah.
So after that championships, and I maybe even the cherry on top was that time got you an invite to the NCAA championships,
Yeah.
uh, which ultimately didn't happen. But was that even on your radar as a freshman in college?
Um, I mean, I always have like goals that kind of go above and beyond, but I didn't really expect it because like I came in as like a mediocre like 50 freestyler. So I wasn't really like expecting to go to big meets like that and like winning conference. Um, it was a big shock to me when I found out that I made it.
Um, and I'm guessing that might have changed your mindset a little bit or changed your perception of yourself as a swimmer.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely raised my goals a little bit after that. And um, I kind of believe in myself more now. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems like that would be certainly a reassuring swim to have. So after NCAA's is ultimately canceled, soon after that month, you announced you're transferring to Tennessee. Can you tell me a little bit about what went into that decision?
Mhm. I just decided that I needed to kind of expand and like advance my swimming a little bit more. And it was actually a really tough decision, but I know I made the right one now. Um, my parents knew Matt because of my sister, and they like really loved him and everything, and they loved Tennessee. So that was always like my number one choice. And it just solidified it once I got to talk to him and some of the teammates here.
Yeah, I love Matt too.
Yeah.
he's a great dude. And Knoxville is one of my favorite cities in the United States. It's a great place to be. So I hear you there, Kristen.
Yeah.
Um, what I'm guessing you didn't see coming, what the whole swimming community didn't see coming, is that just weeks after you announced your transfer from East Carolina, the team gets cut. Can you just take me through your reaction to hearing of that news?
Yeah, I was honestly so shocked. Like some of my friends from ECU talked to me and they said like there's a possibility it could be cut. And I was like, "Oh, don't worry." Like I mean, they won like the boys won conference and the girls did really good too. I'm like, so I really didn't expect it. I was so shocked and I feel so bad for everyone that was affected.
I mean, yeah, the whole swimming community was certainly in shock from that. I think that was one of the, if not the first big swim
Mhm.
program cut, post the start of the pandemic, and so that was a big hit. And it seems like you got out at the right time, but obviously
Yeah.
that's a you never want to see something like that.
Yeah.
So that's tough, but you move on to Knoxville. Can you take me through your summer and fall just in terms of training? Because I'm guessing it was a little all over the place.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Our pools were closed, obviously, like most of the country. So I was kind of nervous because going to like an SEC school with a new team, new coaches that don't really know me and like how I work, I thought I'd be a little out of shape and not ready for it. So me and my sister and my dad bought a above ground pool and we put it in our garage because it was like Illinois, April, it was pretty cold
Okay.
still. And we attached a tether to the garage wall and just swam on the tether in our garage for a couple weeks. And the water was so cold we had to wear like full body wetsuits because none of the heaters like worked that we got. It was a process, but we really tried to stay in shape and stay in the water. Sometimes me and my sister Rachel, we went to lakes with our wetsuits, but that was a little too cold. In April, we didn't stay very long in the lakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. That sounds awful. I'm I'm from Missouri, so I know what those lakes
Yeah.
are like in April. Um, Man, so you went out of your way to get in the water. Were you doing anything outside of the water as well?
Yeah, I did a lot of biking actually. Like I would bike like 15, 20 miles sometimes. Um, and I tried to run, but I'm not a good runner. I made it like 2 miles maybe, and I had to go back. I prefer swimming for sure.
Oh, yeah, I feel like most swimmers are not made for land sports.
Yeah,
Uh,
like they're very different.
Very different. And then throughout the summer, were you able to get into water more at all?
Yeah, my club team ended up opening up with Dave and uh we went back into it pretty fast, back into like the hard practices, the doubles, the 12,000 a day, stuff like that, which I think was good for me in the long run. I needed that.
Wow.
It was kind of hard at the beginning because obviously I was a little out of shape, but I definitely needed that.
What club team was it?
FOC or FMC.
Okay. Uh, and how long would you say it took you to kind of get back to a place where you were like, okay, I'm back, I'm in shape, I feel good in the water?
I think it was kind of hard because I kept having to like get back out because of like an injury for a little. That was like 2 weeks, but I think it took me until probably like August. I think it's a little harder for like the distance swimmers to get back in shape, get your endurance back. But then I got corona in September, so that was hard too. I had to backtrack again. So it was just like a roller coaster for the first couple months.
Yeah,
Of,
and was that while you were at Tennessee?
yeah, I got it mid-September at Tennessee, and it took me at least a month to get back into shape after that one.
Okay.
Corona was tough.
That from everything I've heard, I can imagine that it was. And on
Yeah.
top of that, you're in a whole new training and you're in a whole new living situation, training environment, new coaches, new teammates. I mean, what was adjusting to that like?
Um, I mean, change is always hard, but like here the teammates and coaches and staff just made it really easy for me. Like the whole team was so welcoming and I connected with them so well, and they're like my best friends. Like we relate so much, and the coaches were just so like nice and caring and helpful, and like they know that it's really hard to like come from a different college or like home, just anywhere, and the change is really hard, but they're so supportive and understanding about everything that they just made it really easy.
Nice. Was the training itself a big adjustment for you, just in terms of the kinds of workouts or what you were doing in the water?
Yeah, we swim distance practices a lot more often than I did at ECU, which was a big change, and my body had to get used to it for sure for at least a couple weeks. And the corona thing didn't help at the beginning either. So I had like kind of a rough few weeks, just adjusting to everything and trying to get back into shape. But I know that's like what I need, like a lot more longer and harder practices. Um, and I like it now.
That was my next question. I mean, do you have you found yourself enjoying these longer workouts, and if so, what do you enjoy about them?
I love it. I love working with the distance girls, Claire and Amanda too, here. And it's just, it's kind of relaxing just doing like a long set. You keep your head down in the water for like minutes at time and just like think to yourself and kind of relax and like have a song in your head the whole time. I love it.
I don't know if anyone's ever described a distance workout as relaxing.
It is like you just get to think for like 2 hours to yourself.
It's great. I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds a lot more enticing than my
Yeah.
experience with distance training. But I mean, I don't. Maybe I should give it another shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, did you get to race at all in that fall semester?
Yeah, the first semester at Tennessee.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah. We had a couple inter squad meets where we would split the team into 4 teams or 2 teams. And that was just to get back in the feel of racing, kind of see where you're at and get ready for like the actual meets. And then we had Kentucky, um, and then Vanderbilt, and then Kentucky came back to us, and then Georgia.
Okay. Yeah. So you got to race quite a bit. Take me through one of those inner squads that was memorable to you, of just how it went for you, both in your races and as well as just kind of the environment and the experience.
Yeah. Um, like the team just gets so excited for those meets, and I love that because it just feels like a real meet, essentially like it is, but it just feels so exciting and it's so loud and we get really competitive even though it's like we're one team. We like to like win that in our like split up teams. And it was actually my first meet that I've ever done the 1,000 and the 500 as like my dual meet lineup because at ECU I did the 5 and the 200. So I was kind of nervous about that. I didn't know if like I could do both at once, and um, but I think it went pretty well, and the team was just so supportive and excited for like me and everyone else at that meet.
Were you satisfied overall with how you raced?
Yeah, I was. The times were they were all right for me, but just the fact that like I did it and finished well, and just that the whole team was there like supporting, it was great.
And since then, has there been a dual meet experience that has stood out to you? Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Georgia. Has there been a highlight so far?
Yeah, I think Georgia, because like I've never went that fast in 1,000 before, and honestly like I didn't know if I could even. um like and the 500 I just missed my best time at the dual meet, and I like didn't suit up or taper or anything, so that's kind of exciting. It makes me excited for the meets to come this month and March and see what
Yeah.
I can do.
So it seems like you're in a good place physically now. Was the training in the last couple months at a whole new level for you just because you were in a place where, you were healthy, you were in shape, and you could get some solid work in?
Yeah, we definitely had a lot of hard days, but I think those were needed for sure. And once like my body got used to that type of training, I like learned to love it, like I said, and like it definitely helps me a lot for meets and in the long run.
Yeah. But I've been to Tennessee before. Their Matt and their staff are very innovative with what they do in and out of the pool. Have you learned, or what have you learned about yourself just as an athlete, not even necessarily as a swimmer, from being there for 6-7 months now?
Mhm. I learned a lot. Um, the biggest lesson I've learned, I think, is that swimming is more than like just practicing, just swimming. There's a lot more that goes into it, like the stuff you do on the outside of the pool, like the dry land and the mental training and eating and sleeping and like how you interact with your team and coaches and um, like using equipment on the pool deck, like racks and towers and some drills that like I've never heard of before. Like they come up with a lot of stuff that is just really good, and like add it all together just really helps
Yeah.
for swimming.
Matt is the best at coming up with things you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite thing that a drill, a set that you've done that you're like, this is wild, but has been really good?
um I think there's nothing specific, but just like every day there's something like new or like exciting on the pool deck that I would have never thought of. I think they emphasize like breathing a lot at practice. We will like float to the bottom of the pool and then and then float back up and do that for like 10 minutes straight. And it helps a lot more than you would think just breathing would. Or like we do like dolphin dives sometimes and those help to help like get a feel of the water. Just things you would never expect to like put into practice are put into practice.
Going down to the bottom of the pool, coming back up, you mentioned that is a breathing exercise. What do you feel like that's helpful with? Because I think that sounds great, but also it really helpful. But what do you find that's helpful with specifically?
Yeah, I feel the most helpful it is with like kind of your anxiety before like a practice or a meet, and just stabilizing your breath and making sure you're getting like full exhales. Just get your lungs just like wake up your lungs basically, and it's really relaxing too. It just helps a lot with like pre-swim anxiety.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to start doing that to start my day.
Yeah.
This sounds like a great way to start your morning. Sorry, I'll stop gushing, but that's super cool.
Yeah.
So moving forward, it sounds like you're in a good place. We hopefully are, going to have conference meets, NCAAs, but before that, even heading into these next couple weeks, do you have things specifically you're focusing on?
Yeah, just training like the best I can. Not only like the hardest, but like focusing on all the little things, and trusting myself and Matt, especially Matt, just basically like listening to him, and he's definitely helping me through this because it's new for me for sure, like SECs and like bigger schools and stuff, and distance too.
Do you know your planned event lineup for the SEC championships?
He didn't tell us yet, but I'm pretty sure it's the mile, the 500 and the 200 free.
Do you train any other strokes besides freestyle?
Some days they will make me do like an IM set, and I mean it's fun, but I'm just not the best at other strokes. I think I'm only a freestyler. I've tried, but I just can't yet.
Well, there's always next year.
Yeah.
But, well, Kristen, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk with me for a bit. It's been great to hear about your last year and about your swimming history. Before we sign off today, any parting thoughts?
No, I'm just so thankful that you invited me today.
Yeah, it's been great having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.